Hello and welcome to this thought sharing session. As usual, these are just some ideas and beginnings to kindle, glow, and grow your thinking around some of the subjects of importance. Today, we shall discuss the trend of products as a service. About 3 decades or so ago, there was a great book that John Nesbitt wrote, Megatrends, describing about 10 trends that were changing the world then. This trend of migrating from products to as a service has roots then and maybe even before. It probably was never as prominent and not as much discussed. But in today's world, with so many things being offered as a service, we shall spend a few minutes going over. We shall first start thinking about the products because the whole thing is about from products to a service. So, what is a product? A product is something that we acquire, probably buy more often than not, so that we can use it, possibly consume it, maybe a food item, maybe medicine, electronic item, or things like that. But then as we go deeper, why does the product even exist? What was the creator thinking when he or she conceived the product? Let me take an obvious example. I'll continue with the example throughout this discussion so as to keep the continuity. A product like a software product, an ERP system. It's a product from companies like Oracle, SAP, Microsoft, etc. Why does the product exist? It exists so that the organizations can do their payrolls, maintain their inventory, maintain information about the orders and the customers, and on and on. So, products such as cookies or products such as software ERP systems, hidden in all these descriptions is the fact that some of the products are the endpoints in themselves, they get consumed and are done, while others are the means to an end. They serve the purpose as described by a larger scope. Anyways, the buyers, the consumers, the organizations that buy these products, they own them. And then you start questioning why. Why do we have to own them? There may be a variety of reasons for owning. Possibly because we use them so frequently and the ownership guarantees the availability. Possibly because these products need some further customization and personalization, so we need to own them. Or maybe just because there are no other alternatives, such as renting there. So this thought about ownership begs new question. Even if I have to own them, do I have to own them entirely or partially? Can I own them only when I need it? And this has led to some innovations around pricing area, such as fractional ownership, timeshare. For example, iTunes pricing it by the song and not by the whole album. And as the college kids find out today, they buy the book by the chapter and not the whole book. But all such pricing innovations are just that, pricing innovations. Products are still required to be sold and bought as products, and extracting the desired service out of them still responsibility of the owner. But if the primary purpose of the product was to serve a purpose, such as providing an ability to do the accounting for your business, then why even bother buying or selling the product? Why not just sell the service or the ability? All this mentioned simply is there to underscore the point that the discussion of as a service that is that is way beyond and is quite different from these pricing innovations. This is the trend that you have seen in software, logistics, research, and many other industries. In fact, it has been happening in so many industries and to so many products that as a service has become a verb. X as a service. So just because the whole world is doing, should we be also doing it? Or why should we do it? After all, don't fix if it ain't broke. But that's exactly what the creative destruction taught us. If it ain't broke, break it. If you don't do it, somebody else will. All the software vendors are happy selling the software as a product. It was the user's responsibility to install, maintain, and run and do all the stuff related to it. But one day Salesforce came around and said, let me give you software as a service. Now you start to feel maybe I should do it. Some of my products could also really become as a service. But would I make money doing it? Sure, more likely than not, you would. It makes economic sense. It essentially expands your pie. You get a bigger share of the customer's wallet. You can start to realize some economies of scale, not in the fashion that you already know about around volumes, but this is about the frequency of such use of such goods or the economies of scale around the skills. So a totally different field arises to start to make more sense around economics and finances. Once that starts to happen, I say, let's say accounting starts to warm up to such idea. But upstairs, the big kahunas, the CEOs, do they start to see strategic sense in doing so? And a quick thinking shows that it does make strategic sense. For example, it keeps the competition at bay. It widens the moat, as it not just on, you don't have to simply worry about building more bells and whistles to differentiate product. You just don't have to reduce the price of the product or make it available everywhere to get more market share. But all these additional services, that is the abilities of the product that are going beyond the bells and whistles, they start to differentiate your product from your competitors. And not only that, you differentiate your product, you also start to realize that while building this product, designing and selling this product, you have developed a lot of competencies around the products and the services that the product provides. Start to sound like core competencies, right? So you can start building onto them to provide the same services that the product is expected to give it to its end user. So strategically, you are building on your core competences. Strategically, you are differentiating your more, and the list can go on. The idea there is it starts to make economic sense. It starts to make strategic sense. So now, when everybody in the organization is starting to get convinced that this is the way to go, uh, which of our products should we start to convert as a service? And while choosing which product to choose, there can be any number of evaluations that you can do. And some of the pointers are like this. Is our product investment intensive? For example, how expensive it is. Is it a little widget, couple of bucks, it sits on top of something or it gets consumed? Don't bother. But is the product like $1 million machine or a software? Yeah, looks more promising. Does the customer use it frequently enough? What expertise is needed to use it? They use it every day, for example, to service their own assets or to their own customers. That again starts to become more interesting. What role does the product play as a percentage of the total service? Again, let's take the example of ERP software. It's the majority percentage of the solution that is there to, let's say, do the accounting, right? So those are the kinds of products that become good use cases. Would converting the product to a service differentiate your product? Such as, instead of selling the testing equipment, can you then sell testing as a service saying it's 99.999% accurate? Would that help you pull away from the crowd? Can your customers today easily substitute your product with your competitor's product and still continue with their business process as if nothing has changed? Versus if you offer it as a service, would you be embedding yourself into the business process of your customer and create that stickiness? Various things like this are the considerations while choosing the product that you want to convert it into as a service. And once it starts to make this kind of sense, even strategically, as well as you're starting to zero down on some of the good products that should be converted, um, and you have these three products in your mind, what do you do? Because it's one thing to decide that this product should be converted as a service, and it's another to implement it. Working as a service organization is a completely different ballgame. It has so many impacts, so many consequences. To list those, we can choose any framework. Um, I can think of one of the most famous framework, 7S from McKinsey. After all, it's McKinsey. It has a credibility, but choose your framework of your own. So looking at 7S, the strategy, the structure, the system, you can go through each one of the SS and see the difference between how a product company would work and how as a service company would work. Let me just take a couple of examples and start wrapping up the session. The strategy. As a strategy, the product company decides which facet I want to compete on, say cost or the availability or ease of use. A service company probably doesn't worry about ease of use because after all, it's your pain if it is difficult to use. But that time you may have to focus on reliability, timeliness, or in ease of integration with the rest of the business process. A product company has different strategic consideration for, say, capital investments such as depreciation. But in the case of as a service company, that $1 million testing equipment that I was saying, or the software that you install yourself to be offered as a service is your own, and that is to be depreciated differently. But instead of the money being put in there, now you have to worry more about the people investment. So a different a different way of thinking about the strategy. Systems are going to be quite different. In the past, the KPIs were more focused on the quantifiable attributes of quality. They are more focused on the output. But in case of a service company, they are more qualitative in nature. There need to be probably newer system measurements to track the customers and their usages. Again, let's take the example of the software. You no longer sell the licenses. So it's not like how many licenses were sold, but how many users are using your software hourly basis, minute by minute basis, how many times a program is getting invoked, what they call it as API invocations. So there are very different ways that you need to track it, measure it, and see the quality of it. If I continue like through all the 7 S's, I might take much longer time. So let me stop at this example. But this suffices to show that every nook and cranny of your business gets visited if you start to initiate this journey, this transformation from product to as a service. Thank you for your attention. Hopefully, this provided some food for your thoughts. And if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to add to those into the comment section, and I shall make every attempt to respond. Till next time, thank you and bye.